This week's parasha, Parashat Vayikra, we're starting a brand new sefer in the Torah, and as we've spoken about a lot in previous years, I want to get back to that small Aleph, this time though with an approach from the Shlah HaKadosh. I know in the past we've spoken about the Megillah Mukota in great detail, we've given other Perushim, the Balaturim, but now I want to say a nice idea I saw in the Shlah HaKadosh in his Drush Rishon on Matzah Ashira. This is his Drashot on Pesach. So he speaks here about the small Aleph in Vayikra, being that Hashem is calling out to Moshe Rabbeinu, but the small Aleph, he says, is a hint. Aleph is a hint to Anochi. We've spoken in the past that Hashem didn't start the world, didn't create the world with the letter Aleph. He started with Bereshit, because the Aleph of Anochi goes to the first of the commandments. Anochi Hashem is this concept that God is really everything. God is the source of everything. It's the oneness of God, the belief in God, the understanding of God, the emunah HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This small Aleph of Vayikra that's given over to Moshe Rabbeinu is the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was able, as he says, Zachar dvekut anochi. He was zochet to this level of being connected, being dvekus with the Kadosh Baruch Hu on the level of anochi, which he holds to be the highest level. He actually also says the word kiseh. We know that when Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to get the Torah, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu to grab onto the kiseh hakavod. He says kiseh is also gematria of anochi. So we have this hint of the Aleph being a hint to anochi Hashem. And explains the Shlah Kadosh throughout this drasha that he sees that there's different levels of how you can serve God. He says the lowest level, which is actually pasul, the way we're not supposed to serve God, as it says in Pirkei Avot, don't serve the master of anat lekabel pras, is to do things in this world in order to get rewards down here below. He says that you're not allowed to do. That's like the lowest level. That's not allowed. He says the next level, though, he said, which is allowed, but it's not the highest level, is to serve God to get a reward l'olam haba. And he says this is why we're going to have all the psukim in the Torah. They're going to speak about the different different zechuyot we're going to get. Hashem will actually give us rewards for things. And ultimately, if you serve God, saying, I know God created a system so I can get olam haba, he says that's not a high level, but that's not pasul. To serve God for this world down below, that's not, you can't do. To serve God for the world to come, that already is a low level, you could do that. Then he says the next level is to serve God in the level of yirah, of fear, that you're doing things because you fear God. You don't want punishments. You recognize God is great, and therefore you don't want to bring ownership into this world. And that's like a low level of an Eved. Then he says there's the level of loving God, of Ahavat Hashem. And he says, Ahavat Hashem, you're doing things because you love Hashem. So this is like the level of a ben to an Abba. You have like Avinu, Malkeinu. We have one aspect of God being a Melech, one aspect of God being like an Avinu, being like our Father. So he says that the level of a ben is a level of Ahava. That already is a higher level. And that's called the level of ben. And that already is very, very high. He says most people in this world, if they can reach a high level, it's going to be the level of ben. But then he says there's the highest level of all the levels, goes back to the level of Yirah, but he says it's a concept of Eved, Eved ben Eved, or a born Eved, a person who was a servant to God from the very, very beginning, that his whole essence, his whole being is just to serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu. As some of the Hasidim like to say, that while the son has like this very deep, close love relationship to his father, but the Eved who's doing the work of his king, he's allowed to come in at any moment and talk to the king at any moment, because he himself is an extension of the king. So he says, Ani avdecha ben amatecha, I'm the Eved, son of a shivcha, son of a maidservant, meaning I was born into this role, my whole life was this role, my whole existence, my whole essence is to serve God. He says the highest level is this level of awe and yirah, where you might tell yourself that everything I want to do, Hashem is Malkeinu, Hashem knows what's right, Hashem knows what's correct. I'm going to batel myself completely so that God is everything, and I just want to do God's will, so that there's really like no real sense of me. I am just the Eved of my master. He says that's the level that Moshe Rabbeinu reaches, and that's why in the end of his life he's going to be blessed. He's going to be called the Eved Hashem. That's going to be like the great praise of Moshe Rabbeinu is that he reaches this level of the Eved. So says the Shlah Kadosh. You already see that in the small Aleph here as well, because the small Aleph is a hint to Anochi. It's also a hint to the name of the Aleph Hey Yud Hey, name of God. It's another idea he says, but it's a hint to this concept of Anochi. But it's a small Aleph because Moshe continued that small. He made himself smaller, as we said in the past, out of his anava, out of his great humility. He's making himself tiny, 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 because he's recognizing it's not about me. It's not about I think, therefore I am. It's about Hashem being Anochi Hashem. It's all about God. So he makes himself small, the small Aleph, to recognize that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is everything. And he says that's why when you go on to the next pasuk, The next pasuk talks now about the avodah of Hashem. Adam ki akriv mikem. If you're gonna bring from yourself the korbanot, and some learn ki akriv mikem, you're gonna bring yourself as the korban, and that's going to be the great reach nichuach for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why is the Vayikra, the small Aleph, what does it have to do with the korbanot? Because the korbanot is known as the avodah. It's known as what it is to be the ebed, to constantly want to serve God, to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But now we're saying in the pasuk, Adam ki akriv mikem, you're going to give of yourself. You're basically saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm a full ebed to you. Whatever you want, whatever you need, it's my job here to spread your glory to the world. That's the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's the hint in the small Aleph. Shabbat Shalom.